Hello. Welcome to another episode of Season 16 of The Horrific Podcast. We're two friends who live in different places but share a love for scary movies. In each episode, we both watch the same movie on our own and then record a conversation together about what we liked, what we hated, if we were scared, and maybe even some larger truths about why people watch horror movies in the first place. This season, the theme is B movies for C students. We're taking a break from the current trends toward elevated horror and examining the history of horror B movies and how they've developed over time. Thanks for joining us, and we hope you enjoy the episode. So, unfortunately, we don't have Ed Wood, the B movie MVP, or Robert Lippert, the King of the Bees, to talk about this week. But if you want to hear more about them, go back to our last couple episodes. But this week we do have American International Pictures and Samuel Arkoff to discuss, and I think that their contribution to the history of horror B movies is significant.
You know what? I'm here for it.
The more I read about it, the more interesting I found it. So instead of going back through and recapping stuff we've learned from this season so far, I'm just going to read a little bit about them. If you want to know more, go back and listen to the previous ones. We're doing a high-level investigation of the progress of horror B movies over the decades. American International Pictures, LLC, was an American film production company founded in 1954 by James H. Nicholson and entertainment lawyer Samuel Z. Arkoff. In its original operating period, AIP was an independent film production and distribution company known for producing and releasing films from 1955 until 1980. It was dedicated to releasing low-budget films packaged as double features, primarily of interest to the teenagers of the 50s, 60s, and 70s. That was kind of funny to me, just because where all of this started was in the 30s, where the major, Hollywood movie houses were making cheap B movies to go with their high-budget movies so that they could offer 2-for-1 tickets and still make a bunch of money. And now we kind of got away from that and have come full circle in the 1960s to now we have a production company who has realized packaging two films together in a double feature is a pretty good business model as long as you make one of them really, really, really cheaply.
Yeah, it's definitely not a reused idea whatsoever.
Yeah, but AIP was pretty adaptable, and I guess they got off to kind of a rough start. And when many of their first releases failed to earn a profit, Arkoff quizzed film exhibitors who told him of the value of the teenage market as adults were watching television mostly. AIP was the first company to use focus groups, polling American teenagers about what they would like to see and using their responses to determine titles, stars, and story content. A sequence of tasks in a typical production involve creating a great title, getting an artist to create a dynamic, eye-catching poster, and then raising the money, and then finally writing and casting the film. So they would basically just look for like a hook, like an ad they could sell, and then they'd raise money on that, and then they'd actually build the thing. So this is like Silicon Valley before it was cool.
That's what I was kind of thinking. I was like, that when they were going to get money, they're like, we know this idea is a little janky. However, look at this thing. We asked a whole bunch of teenagers what they like, and that they agreed about it because of that.
Yeah. So, yeah, it was interesting to me that they were finding this kind of new, interesting business model, and it was a way of like moving fast and keeping current with the times. And at the time, I imagine a lot of this was like super groundbreaking. I mean, being the first person to use a focus group is kind of impressive.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%.
But they had kind of formalized how they did this stuff. And so I guess in the 80s at one point, Samuel Z. Arkoff talked about his Arkoff formula. And so his last name is Arkoff. And he said this was the formula for producing a successful low-budget movie. A, for action. It's got to be exciting and an entertaining drama. R, for revolution. It has to be novel or controversial themes and ideas. K is killing, for a modicum of violence. O is oratory, so it has to have notable dialogue and speeches. The first F is fantasy, so acted out fantasies common to the audience. And then the final F, I know will be your favorite, fornication. Got to have some sex appeal for the young adults.
You're damn right. I heard that, man.
So yeah, so basically they're like, all right, the way that we can get our hooks in to the teenage audience is just this formula, and you don't have to have very much money to do it, and we're going to double down on it and make a lot of money along the way, and it worked. But that said, interviews with teenagers to see what would appeal to them in film is a really weird way, in my mind, for this movie to have been conceived, given what it was.
Yeah, actually, that's a good point. I think it's interesting, though, that they have the formula, because I feel like nowadays the formula is just like, just put out something shocking and it'll be fine, or something. There's not as much thought into it, and there's not nearly as much fornication happening. It's just insulting.
Yeah, I feel like today's formula is sequel and jump scare. The end.
Yeah, prequel, sequel, jump scare.
Yeah. I also feel like we've really dialed down the notable dialogue and speeches, but maybe that's just me.
I think we're just getting dumber. Not society, you and me.
That's entirely possible.
I'm bringing it down, buddy.
Less talk, more stab. But yeah, we've got lots to discuss with this movie, and I know that you have some fun facts, so I'll do a quick intro, and then we will get into the miraculous hand magic details.
Hand magic was my nickname in high school.
That was one for the teenagers.
That's for sure.
In 1963, American International Pictures brought us The Raven, a magical gothic comedy horror very vaguely based on the poem The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe. This movie stars Vincent Price, Peter Lorre, Boris Karloff, and a very young Jack Nicholson. It tells the story of a powerful magician who executes a plan to trap and extract ancient wisdom from a former rival's son after stealing his girl. This movie was made on a budget of $350,000 and was shot in only 15 days. It was, however, a box office success, pulling in almost $1.5 million. It can currently be streamed for free with ads on Tubi. What did you learn about this movie?
So, people who have been listening to us knows that we had a season where we watched the movie M. I think it was on Esquire's list. I think it was that season. I don't remember. I think it was that one. We watched a horror movie called M. Peter Lorre was the bad guy in that movie. Peter Lorre was the guy who was the Raven in this film, who was turned into a Raven. And look at him, you're just like, I know you.
Yeah, had the same experience.
But, and I'm sure it might be similar for you, but like 90% of the time, if we're watching a movie this old or a show this old, the reason why we probably recognize them is Twilight Zone.
Yes.
That was my guess. And I was like, oh, that's it. He was a creepy guy with the creepy eyes. Like, I recognize this fool, which I just thought was kind of cool.
It's like, oh, this creepy guy with the creepy eyes played the creepy guy with the creepy eyes in that other movie, too.
You were born to... Look at you freak of nature. You should play a freak of nature.
Like an early day Steve Buscemi.
You're damn right. And then here's just another random fact about this film. I was on Wikipedia, because I was kind of bored. I'm reading, about this film a little bit, and I was like, I'm just gonna click. I swear this is how it happened. I was like, I'm just gonna check out who this person is. Who was the cinematographer of this film? I didn't think it was necessarily that bad, so I was like, I'm just curious. I don't normally look up that thing. I couldn't tell you why. Anyways, so the cinematographer of this film, his name was Floyd Crosby. Floyd Crosby just so happens to be the dad of David Crosby. Crosby, Stills, Nash, sometimes Young, and the Byrds, amongst other things.
The more you know.
He was on the episode of Roseanne. He had a killer mustache. I loved him. He was my dad.
It's just a great name.
I know, but I just thought it was so weird. I was just like, literally, that's how it worked. I was like, I'm curious on who this guy is. I want to see if there's connections, and
Yeah.
there was a connection there. His son, a legendary musician too. Of that, it's just some people are born with success.
Some of us aren't so lucky.
We've been grinding our asses off for fucking decades, Daniel. We're not that.
Yeah. We have a solid pair of listeners based on the numbers. So, we're doing okay for ourselves.
I feel good about it.
Yeah. This was such a weird movie.
I got to say, I think I'm bummed out about the fact that you're going to call it The Raven and then be like, it's loosely based off The Raven. It's like, you didn't have to put Edgar Allan Poe shit in it. You could have had this story without it. It could have been a damn toucan for all you know. Why is it got to be Raven?
Well, all that stuff I read about it beforehand made me get in my head about it. It's like, were their focus group teenagers all in the same English class that were like reading Edgar Allan Poe at the time?
That's what I was wondering.
And they're like, all right, guys, we have this killer script for a movie. It's called The Raven. And then they got somebody to draw up this like awesome movie poster. And they're like, yeah, this thing's ready to go. And somebody was like, yeah, I'd spend a little bit of money on that. And then they're like, okay, now we got to write a script. Oh no, this poem's not very long. What do we do?
You ever heard the word loosely?
Yeah, exactly.
I also just like to think that, they were doing the thing with the teenagers, like, hey, what do you guys think of this? And they're like, oh, The Raven based off the poem. And they're like, yeah, that's it, kid. Yeah. No. Yeah. Loosely based off of it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you guys, what do you guys think?
We got ourselves a movie.
Yeah. But here's the thing. It was called The Raven and it had a raven in it. I can't be that mad. I'm a simple man.
Yeah. And I feel like the kind of the Edgar Allan Poe vibe flowed through this one. It was almost like a pre-Tim Burton movie where it just had kind of that like creepy gothic feeling, but there was also like the music would go back and forth between really foreboding but also like comically whimsical, and it also used animation on top of the footage to create some interesting effects but also sometimes some kind of goofy looking effects. And there was just a lot going on with kind of how it was made. Like this movie definitely had a style, which was not really a thing I was expecting from it. And yeah, it was hard to pin down what it was trying to be, I guess.
No, without a doubt. And I absolutely agree that this movie definitely had a style. I feel like, I don't know this, but I'm going to say like before, like, styles were associated with like directors or producers. Like we know, like what you like, Tim Burton, like you're mentioning, you relatively know what you're getting yourself into. But I think gothic is the perfect word to kind of describe this. It definitely kind of reminded me of that very first horror movie that we watched on 100 Years of Horror a little bit. And I don't know if it's just it was the one that was on YouTube. It was like a couple minutes long, but it just kind of had the same feel. And that to me was gothic. And some of the German expressionist films that we watched, I think that was the best example. I mean, let me tell you something weird about this though. Do you know what this movie made me want to do? That I don't know why.
Learn witchcraft?
No, I've been doing that since 1987. Listen to Bullet to Binary by Me Without You. I don't know why, but I had to listen. I've only been listening to it since I watched The Raven.
Weird.
Yeah, that's such a good song, man.
Yeah, good album.
He goes into French in that? Are you kidding me?
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, it was just, this movie had me all over the place. Also, tying into the film, this film was all over the place, so it kind of worked out.
Yeah, exactly.
What was actually, what I thought was actually pretty decent in some spots is some of the special effects to this act. It was either really, really bad or, in my opinion, really, really good. an example of really, really good was when they pulled the box out and it had the eyeballs in it.
Yes.
Are you kidding me? That was disgusting. It looked real.
Well, and even like the scene when Dr. Craven opened his dad's coffin, and then like the corpse like started talking, like there were some moments in this one that really were attention grabbing, and I think that overall the pace was much better than the last few that we've watched. Like, this wasn't like action packed. It's not on my top list of favorite movies, but this was a much easier watch than some of the other ones we've had this season.
I absolutely agree to that. And I assume maybe because it's newer, or, it was 30, 20 years later. But I agree. This movie was not the greatest whatsoever, but I had no problem watching it. Plus, it was kind of cool watching a young Jack Nicholson.
Yeah. Yeah. It was weird because you could kind of see, I feel like his features have become more exaggerated as he's gotten older. So seeing it on a young person was just kind of weird.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. But this one, it definitely was not taking itself too seriously and kind of had almost like a Monty Python-esque kind of tongue-in-cheek humor to it a lot of the time. But then there were also some things that it did that I feel like are kind of typical of horror movies that we've seen before and after. Like the whole, who do I really trust? Like, is Bedloe actually the good guy, or is he just trying to turn me against the guy that he doesn't like because he's mad at him? And, what happened with Lenore, and is that really her, and who do I trust, and all that. There was enough going on with the plot, and if you could suspend your disbelief in the magical pieces of it that sounded absurd and didn't really make sense logically, the ideas of how the plot was progressing made sense, at least, which is, again, more than we can say for some of the previous movies.
No. Yeah. Without a doubt, I think, albeit storyline involving ravens and wizards and all of that, like, in my opinion, it was pretty straightforward what was happening here.
Yeah.
It was just like every once in a while they'd be like, guess what? His wife's not dead. She really went to, it was just like things like that. That you're just like, what? But hey, anyone that's listening to this, we know, or is listening to us, knows I have this, that phobia where I'm like, with the eyes and like, like if I look through a window. So when the main character, I don't even know his name,
Vincent Price. I call him VP in my notes. But VP, Dr. Craven was this character. Was
he also a vice president? Is that what we're calling VP?
And just his initials.
I thought the P was silent. When Vincent Price thinks that he sees his wife when he's at the castle, when they're about to,
when she's out the window.
Mm-hmm. That's it. That's it right there. You see that, and she's smiling and looking. If you guys want to know what I'm talking about, that right there, if it was a little bit darker, would have freaked me out a little bit more. But she had like this weird smile on her face, and her eyes were huge, and she got real close to the glass. And I was like, it's like, this movie sucks. I'm turning it off.
Over it.
No one was there. I was just talking to myself at that point. But that's what I'm talking about, just for the record. But come on, still in his wife.
Well, and it didn't really even make total sense as to what her motivations were. There were some parts that if you asked like the next level question, they just didn't really line up. But the overall flow of the movie still kind of went, thing to thing to thing in a way that mostly made sense. So not a lot of great backstory, but you probably didn't have time for that when you had to go from your focus group to the theater in 2 weeks.
Yeah. Took me an hour to write this damn thing. We're going to film it in 2. There were things that maybe one of the reasons why I didn't have like a huge problem with the film too, were there were just things that I was kind of thinking of during that would just kind of make me laugh a little bit. So like at the end of this film, they're about to have like the wizard off. That's what I'm calling it.
You got served.
And when the vice president VP, he's like, when they initially start battling, like at the end, the villain was losing, and all of a sudden he was just like, enough, we're not doing this. And it was like, well, yeah, no shit, you're losing, you dork.
Right.
You can't do that. That's against the rules of wizards. I know this. But then I also thought it would have been amazingly funny. If I was a teenager, I would probably recommended this during that time. If they had the rules of the wizard off before they started it. Because I don't know what the rules are. Do you know what the rules are of Wizard Off?
I can really only guess based on how it played out. But I can't say definitively.
Like no eye gouging. And it's like, yeah, of course. What do we allow throwing fake knives? Yeah, of course. It's Wizard Off. If we gotta have it. I just thought it'd been funny if they went over the rules though. Like an old fashioned duel.
Or if you tried to retrofit rules onto what they actually chose to do to each other. Most of my interest in this conversation was finding out your assessment of that final standoff.
Dude.
Because it was just like, almost like they were trying to punk each other as much as they were trying to battle to the death, you know?
Yeah, just tricksters. It was it was amazing. I loved it, and I'll tell you why I loved it. Because no matter what happened, it was always the exact opposite. Like, no matter what happened, you think like, he finally gets a knife through whatever it was that actually punctured VP, and looks like blood, and then they go up and it's like sawdust or whatever, and like, what the hell? And he's like on the chandelier above. It's like every single thing is countered. Everything you think is going to happen is just not going to happen. And also, this is before Rocky, so like no one knew that everyone loves a comeback story.
Yeah, very true.
So what they should have done is, this guy's not going to win. Oh, he's about to lose. JK, he's got heart, kid.
Yeah. He's going to pick himself up off that mat and do it for Mickey.
Yeah, do it for Mickey.
But yeah, this, I don't know. This was not like sold out horror. This movie was very much trying to be entertaining. It used some horror elements and I guess almost like horror set decor, more so than it was really trying to get in your head or scare you. But it also didn't take itself super seriously, which I kind of appreciate after. Is it Rocket XM?
Rocket Ship XM.
Rocket Ship. I can't say that title.
Are you saying shit?
No, a little. Rocket Ship XM. It took itself so seriously, and it was like every scene was the most dramatic scene, and it had this hard hitting message about rethinking our stances on nuclear technology development and stuff. And it was just, it felt very, very heavy handed, but not like it kind of pulled off what it needed to pull off to make that really stick. Whereas this movie is like somewhat farcical, kind of tongue in cheek, a little bit of dark humor, also some horror themes. And I don't think it really tried to do anything it couldn't pull off. And I appreciate that. And it just made it, I have a hard time calling it a better movie, but it was easier to watch.
Yeah. Like easy listening music. I think this is an easy watching film.
Crosby, Stills, and Nash.
You're damn right. I'm just saying, Floyd Crosby birthed the saint. I'm just kidding. So it was easy. It was easy to watch. There's some gnarly special effects in this. Some good, some bad. I do think there is a similar ending, like actual final ending, not talking about the wizard off. It's similar to like with Rocket Ship XM, which is at the end, his VP's wife wanted to come back and he's like, no.
Yeah.
Guess what?
He
I'm burning this place down. Yeah. And like you would think, I thought it was going to go that direction where kind of like what we were saying with Rocket Ship XM was like we just knew at the end of that they were going to fall in love, they were going to land, it was going to be happy ever after. With this one, it was like, oh, this wizard definitely was like putting his ex-wife or his wife under a spell. That's why she's there. Like it's, it's not that, and that would break the spell, and then they would end up back together, whatever. But no, that wasn't the case. He was like, yo, I'm better than you both. Burn in hell. Also, Raven, shut your fucking mouth.
Yeah.
And he just zipped that up too, and it was like, good for you, VP.
Well, it was like the whole movie, he'd just been kind of a pushover.
Yeah.
And he was just so like non-confrontational and laid back and not really interested in doing anything for himself. And then at the end, he's like, nah, you're not coming back with me. You made your choice. And then Bedloe comes and is trying to take credit for, solving problems that he created. And he's just like, I'm going to curse you to not be able to talk anymore. I'm not turning you back into a person, and you're just going to be a silent raven forever. And then he breaks the fourth wall and says, quoth the raven, nevermore. It's like sick burn, bro. You got him.
Got him. Yeah. I mean, it definitely didn't end how, you knew that VP was going to win, but, I did not expect that to happen.
I didn't expect to walk away feeling like he was a badass.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Especially after you got the whole laser beams shooting out of the fingies.
Yeah.
What I think about during scenes like that, though, also is how awkward is it to be an actor with special effects like that? So, like, all right, now you're shooting lasers out of your finger and act like it. like what?
Right, VP,
just do a couple
we need
claws.
you to give a convincing laser beam, please.
Yeah, laser.
Now you really need to put your heart into it. Like if it was your worst enemy and you're shooting him with finger laser beams, that's what we're asking for here.
You fucking actors act like you don't even know what a laser beam is. Shoot him out of your freaking fingers.
Even thrown an animated knife?
Yeah. About to quote the raven, bitch.
Finger paint with magic a giant purple raven, please.
Yeah.
Oh, this guy.
Now you need to act like it really hurts when you shit. That's the look you want on your face.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Here's the thing. You watch this film, I recommend it. It's not the greatest. But you're not going to hate yourself when it's done because it was easy to watch.
It was. There were no points in this one where I paused it to see how much time was left. Like, it was paced well, it kept my attention, and it was entertaining. I'll give it that for sure.
Yeah.
Does that mean we have the film appreciation level of a 1960s teenager? Is that what we've just decided here?
I think so. I think so for sure. But also, if we were in that study, this would have been a way different film.
Okay, I will give you that.
Boobies, rocket ships. I
was just going to say, like, real knives.
Real knives, real magic, real wizards. Yeah. I know a guy. He's real. He's a wizard.
I was going to make some comment about maybe we should watch Rebel Without a Cause next. But do you want to guess what year that came out?
1959.
55.
No,
I always thought of it as a 60s movie. Yeah, crazy.
Whoa, right? I did too, actually. I was trying to be funny.
Yeah.
That's why I went 59.
Yeah.
Idiot.
It's okay. I would have said 68.
I know. I screwed up.
Well, I think we've covered this one.
I'm really fucking mad at myself right now.
It's okay, man. We all have our off days. We're going to be back next week with a fresh start and another movie from the 60s. So
that's my pick too, right?
Absolutely it is. I have to watch whatever you want to watch. And
did Striptease come out in the 60s? Just curious.
No, it was 1955.
Fuck. What about Showgirls?
Let's see. Yeah, also 55. Weird.
Damn.
I'm starting to doubt this website.
Yeah. What's the website you're on? Everything came out in 1955.com.
Yeah. It's a GPT. It's called 55 GPT.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess we'll talk to you guys later. Listen, we'll miss you. I don't even know when this is coming out. 1955.
And that's it for today's episode. If you've listened this far, then thank you, and we hope you've enjoyed it. We're always looking for new ideas, so if you have any questions, comments, or movie suggestions, please send us an email at thehorrificpod@gmail.com. Or hit us up on the IG. That's what the kids call Instagram. Just search for The Horrific Podcast. Thanks for listening.